CBS News senior national security analyst Juan Zarate joins us from Washington. And Juan, first of all, I just want to get your take on the seriousness of this case. These are pretty serious allegations.
Well, incredibly serious allegations, Elaine. Keep in mind that under court-martial rules, espionage could lead to the death penalty. So in and of itself, the legal charges put Mr. Lin in great jeopardy in terms of his legal liability and even his life. But more importantly, it puts into context the ongoing sort of spy battles between the U.S. and China, which are often thought of to be happening in cyberspace, but they're also happening in the real world. And this is part of a challenge with a growing Chinese military presence in the South China Sea. Clearly, China trying to acquire more data around what the U.S. is doing and what we're seeing and doing, especially with our naval reconnaissance. And the fact that Mr. Lin actually had a central role as a Mandarin speaker in the reconnaissance and intelligence world, to include helping to coordinate the EP-3 flights that then look at what Chinese activity, what Chinese activities happening in the South China Sea and elsewhere. You know, that is devastating. And I think it looks like the U.S. Navy was onto this fairly early in the espionage cycle, but it's not yet clear. And certainly it's a serious case. Serious for Mr. Lin, serious for the U.S.-Chinese relationship, and certainly reflective of the back and forth, the cat and mouse spy game that's played between the U.S. and China.
So, Juan, I just want to make sure our viewers are clear, and I'm clear as well. So he was on this Navy spy plane gathering, or a spy plane that helps to gather electronic signals intelligence, essentially. But what then could the damage have been passing along whatever it was that he was able to gather, allegedly, back to China? What could China or Taiwan have done with that knowledge?
Well, certainly the challenge with China is that they want to scoop up as much information as possible. Similar damage with Taiwan, but Taiwan being an ally, slightly less problematic. But the Chinese certainly have infiltrated elements of Taiwanese society and trying to get as much information as possible. But the type of information varies from very specific data around what the U.S. is actually collecting and what the U.S. knows about Chinese capabilities, movements, military capacity, all the way to broad questions of what U.S. intelligence capabilities are writ large, what our intent is in the region, and insights as to what the Navy is trying to do, especially at a time of growing crisis in the South China Sea and potential conflict even. And so it's that full gamut of information that someone like Edward Lin could potentially provide to the Chinese, and why this is potentially a very damaging case. But from the looks of it, from what we know at least preliminarily, appears to be a case in which the U.S. Navy got in front of this a bit and perhaps contained some of the damage. But they're clearly trying to do damage assessments based on what they know that he conveyed, probably trying to understand better if he was able to convey other information through other channels. And I think the court-martial itself, when brought, will bring to light more information about what he was doing and what he was able to pass.
How might this, Juan, affect the recruiting system within the United States here? We talked about the fact that he is someone who moved to this country when he was 14 years old. Could it possibly affect the way in which people are recruited into the military into this country?
Well, certainly individuals recruited in the military go through a screening process. In addition, those who are in sensitive positions like an intelligence position like this one that Mr. Lin was in go through additional vetting. And that vetting will no doubt continue and perhaps even increase. But there's no question that the military and the intelligence community need to recruit American nationals who have foreign language capabilities, familiarity with foreign cultures, and who may have been born abroad. I don't think that's going to stop here. I think that has to continue and will continue. I think what will be beefed up is this question of vetting, as well as whether or not there's enough counterintelligence and counter-espionage in place for very sensitive positions, especially when it comes to China, which is such an important target for U.S. intelligence and potentially a source of conflict, if not crisis, in places like the South China Sea.
All right, Juan Zarate in Washington for us. Juan, thank you so much.
Thanks, Elaine.